Hello, guys. Welcome to Rex Arthur TV, Rex Arthur Show. And this is the show where we discuss LGBTQ issues with an LGBTQ perspective and humanistic approach. But today we're not going to be in the the LGBTQ mold as such. We combined Rivers of Thought and Love of Fikir together, and we are today with the what you call the Rivers of Thought and Love of Fikir, but it's still combined. There's still one thing because Rex Arthur is also the River of Thought, Love of Fikir, and therefore River of Thoughts and Love of Fikir is Rex Arthur. Now, I had to do this video because I was thinking these days when I have thoughts, I like coming online when I have time to come online. So today I have time to come online, and I was thinking about progress, and it was a very interesting thought. And it led me to define what progress is. And progress means to go forward, to advance forward. Let's get the meaning of progress because being a progressive, because many people are progressives and they claim to be progressives. I proclaim to be a progressive. And why is a progressive? I like being a progressive because it is the natural thing to do. The farther you go into age, when you age in time, you become progressive. We don't retrograde. But there's something about life that is very interesting, and it could be the reality we have in life that the when you when you grow up, when you're born, you grow up. That's progress. Then when you reach the climax of your age. There's a climax of your age you reach, and for most human beings they say that climax is 40. Life begins at 40. So some people reach at the climax of life at 40. When they reach 40, they now retrograde. What I mean by retrograde, they now start doing things slowly. They now start um, resting. They now start thinking. They now start. They stop running around. They stop being restless. They are settled. And then when they do that settling, they become old, and they now slowly become very very old. But sometimes even if they get moody, they are not able to do some physical things. So what does that tell you? That human beings, the human cycle of life is not progressive in some areas. It is progressive in certain areas and then retrogressive in others. Like what I mean by that is that when you reach 40, you now retrograde. And it's not every human, because if the general rule, you should always remember the general rule that for every general rule, there is an exception. There are some old people who actually become better and better and better the older they become, but they are not many. Majority of old people become older the more they grow older, because that's how their body was wired to be. Now, the definition of progressive, then we'll continue. Progressive means to be, it's an adjective, happening or developing gradually in stages, developing. So it's about development. And the synonyms include continuous, increasing, growing, intensifying, accelerating, escalating. All of those are words meaning to progress. And then an advocate of social reform, innovator, reformist, reformer, liberal, libertarian, progressionist, leftist, left winger, All of these are progressive because it's an advocate of social reform. So that's who I am. I call myself a progressive because I am I am an advocate of social reform. And what does it mean to be an advocate of social reform? Advocate of social change, to change society, to make society better. But that's now what made me think the irony of progress. The irony of progress is um, everything can progress. And that's what I was saying to myself and saying, wow, oh my goodness, this is very strange. Because when you are an advocate of social reform, you are always looking at the positive for the society to become better, more human rights, more respect of people's rights, and more inclusivity of women, inclusivity of LGBTQ persons, inclusivity of young people, and everybody's now included in the system. You bring everybody. That's a progressive. In 1930, like America is the best picture of progress, the very best picture of progress. The the and and in America, the best picture of progress is the Black American, followed by the Native American, though it should be the Native American that should be the first, who has benefited from the progress. What do I mean? Let's start with the Native American because that's the most important person there. The Native American is the indigenous inhabitant of America. When the white immigrants came, they killed them and they put them in servitude. There was a time they enslaved them, but they didn't want to use them because they were falling sick and other things that were happening to them. There were very many plagues in America at that time because of, I think there's even a that smallpox was brought from Europe and made those Native Americans sick. So anyway, that happened, and the Native Americans became few. Now, what does that mean? The Native Americans declined, so they retrogressed. They didn't progress in population. Then America, then when they started making noise and protesting for their rights, the Native Americans, America decided to include and recognize Native Americans as Americans. Remember, they even built reserves for them, put them, because they wanted to reserve their culture. So they put them in their reserves. But the first reserves were not kind reserves. They were like colonial, the way they did in Africa. But now, that time they said, okay, now we'll give you land. So right now, they have progressed in the sense that instead of being killed off, because if it was pure retrograde, they would have killed all the Native Americans and none would survive. But the ones who survived have survived, first of all. Now they live in a community and they are now American citizens fully. They're even given land, and there has been a program whereby land has been restored to the Native Americans, which is why it's so weird. Trump was talking about the South African land acquisition when he's not told South Africans what has happened in America. What has happened in America, the Native Americans have been given back some of their land, the land they've taken. So there's some lands that have gone back to Native Americans. And this is why, if you look at the American map, many Americans live on the coastline. Two-thirds of the population of America lives on the coastline. Only one-third lives inland because part of the land belongs to Native Americans and the other part belongs to commercial ventures, farming, and industries. But the rest of the people now, two-thirds of the population, imagine two-thirds times 300, that's 200 million people live on the coastline of America. So the rest of the land is was shared, and it was rightfully shared back, returned back to Native Americans, some of it. And so that was that's a progressive restoration to the Native Americans, and to tell them sorry that we invaded you and and the genocide happened. Now let's go to the Black American. The Black American is also a very clear example of a progressive, because he came to America as a slave. He started as a slave, and then in the 1860s he was emancipated, meaning he was free. He was freed, and when he was freed, he then was given the right to vote. And then when he was given the right to vote, he was given the right to go to school. That's the Brown versus Board education, and go to school with white people, because before they were allowed to vote, but they were still living in segregation. Blacks went to black schools, blacks went to black churches, blacks went. That's why there are black churches still today. It's because it's the history of segregation. It's more stronger than the multicultural mixing that is beginning to happen. Now the blacks then became I mean, they now, with Brown versus the Board of Education, blacks were allowed to study with whites. And that was just in the 60s, that when the Brown versus Education was passed. And then now the blacks, then you have a black president who became president, the first black president, Barack Obama. So meaning that blacks can even run. Of course, Jesse Jackson ran for president and didn't succeed, which was also a step. It was a milestone that a black can actually run for office. And then Barack Obama ran and he succeeded. And that's the progress. And now, when you look at the time Barack Obama succeeded, Oprah was successful, a successful magnate, and then you have Beyonce, you have Jay-Z, all these musicians, and of course even Bill Cosby. Everybody in different industries, they had money. I mean, then look at the players, Michael Jordan, and now you have the basketballers, very rich black people. So what does that mean? That's progress. They started as slaves, and now they've ended up as being rich elite, very rich black elite. And now to finish, to hit the climax of the progress, if I were them, and they have already started doing that, some of them like Jay-Z and recently Rihanna, you come to Africa and you build Africa with your money, you know, and you invest in Africa. That's now what we are waiting for. We're waiting for black industrialists to come and build Africa, so that the progressive cycle is complete, that the slaves who went to America have come to build Africa, and they're building it for the betterment, to make Africa even better. Because it's a weird cycle. It's a very weird cycle, because the blacks were they were also blacks who were enslaved in Africa. Never forget that, by their own people. Because division is natural, diversity is real, and people take advantage of division. Especially if you find people you can compete with somebody, it's normal. When we're in groups, in different groups, there are different groups that can overturn someone or can overtake someone and then rule them. Then in their ruling, they enslave them. They have a choice to enslave, or they have a choice to live together. Like now with democracy has allowed us to live together. Yes, we are different, but instead of enslaving those who are different or weak, we are all working together. That's what democracy does. And so the beauty is that when these blacks are going to come back, not necessarily to stay, they can still live in America, but they build Africa. And it's the same. It has also happened with the new black diaspora that has gone to America and Europe. They are rich and they send money back to Africa to build Africa, to make it better. That's better. So those are the two progressives you can see in America. They are progressing, the Black American and the Native American, because the Black American suffered, went there as a sufferer, and now is becoming successful. They are now, they are even rich enough to have networks, BET and all of these things. They're having magazines, Ebony and Essence, all of these nice magazines by black people, black CEOs. Yeah, so that's progress. So in the black community, they can talk about progress. Now, but then there's something else I got to understand. As I was telling you, I was thinking about progress. And this is what you call the diversity of progress. The diversity of progress is a sad yet happy story. Why? Because progress can be positive and negative and neutral. I've left the school of thought whereby we believe in duality. People, they just keep on telling you, oh, this is positive, or this one is negative, or whatever. Because sometimes what is negative to you is positive to another, and what is positive to another is negative to another. So if that is that, they cancel each other. So positive, negative means nothing. But the what I'm trying to say is that there is some progress that can be bad. Like, let's say, look at weapons. People used to fight. If you read the Bible, there was no gun in the whole reading of the Bible and the Quran. No gun. No gun. There was knives, clubs, slings, swords. It was a progress of, like, what did Cain kill Abel with? Do people know? What did Cain kill Abel with? Did he kill him with a knife? Because it says Abel killed an animal for God as a sacrifice. Cain gave fruits, I mean, vegetables from the land or crops. So if Abel used a knife, this can tell you that the age Adam and Eve began in the age when there was the use of a knife. Or how did he kill that animal? It's weird. I've never asked myself, I've asked myself now today, how did Abel kill the animal? And then secondly, how did Cain kill Abel? Did he kill him with a weapon, or he killed him with his bare hands? And if he killed him with his bare hands, is it that Cain was stronger than Abel? Or did he push him on a cliff? You can push people on a cliff and they fall off and die. So anyway, that's for your own meditation and thinking. But the fact is, that time, the story of Cain and Abel, you don't find Cain went to take a gun and shot Abel, because that was 4000 BC when that story was said to happen. It happened around 4000 BC. That's 6000 years ago. Now, as I've told you, from 4000 BC to 1800, there was no gun. Or maybe let's put it at around 1000 AD. No gun, but there were swords. So people were killing them. Then next thing you know, the gun came. That's progress. So the weapons now progressed to becoming more lethal and more effective. So then men started making guns, the musket. They started with the musket. It was if you looked at the musket, if you do, people are not using muskets today. Why? It's retrogressive to use a musket. It's so tiring to fill up it with gunpowder. It's very dirty. Everyone will know you have used a musket. Now the problem, that's what I'm saying. That's the problem of progress, is that it's diverse. And the musket, when you used it, the gunpowder can splash on your face. So imagine if you use a musket against somebody and it flashes on your face, people will know you've used a musket. It will be very easy to take you to court because you used a musket. And so the inventors of musket now improved it and went further. And then they gave this the rifle came. And then after the rifle, then now came the AK-47 in the 1800s and the Maxim gun. When the Maxim gun was made, that was the time colonialism was at its peak. The colonialists were so happy that they had a Maxim gun. And they knew that now they could conquer Africa, because Africa, they didn't make, they still stayed with their clubs and knives. That's all. And by the way, in Africa, not all tribes even made knives. If they did, they had very few spears, because iron was made in Eastern Africa. That's where iron was made. And so that means if you were in an area where you didn't make iron, only you had was a. Do you know why in South Africa they had a knob carry? The knob and with a rod, and it's wooden. It's because they could get trees easily and easily. Of course, iron also went to South Africa, because they also have iron ores, a bit of iron ore in Zimbabwe, down there, South Africa. So they also made. And you remember Shaka Zulu Assegai, the spear, short one, and it was there. So, but they didn't have the Maxim gun, because the gun was invented in Europe or Asia. Gunpowder came from China, and then the gun was in Europe. So these guys came with a gun to fight Africans, and it was scientific analysis of the situation. The Africans are going to lose because they had weaker weapons. It's like putting a heavyweight man to fight a lightweight man. It's even impossible. Boxing can never allow you. I can never allow a lightweight man to fight a heavyweight man. That's why the story of David and Goliath is a miracle. It is written, it is always mentioned because it was a miracle. It is the big man who is supposed to beat the small man. And that's why Tom and Jerry is a nice cartoon, because Jerry, a small mouse, is beating a big cat. I mean, it's evidence a cat should catch a mouse. Why is it that you watch a cartoon whereby the mouse is always winning? Is always winning. That's why it's entertaining. It is because it's not real. It's not scientific. Science is boring because it's just a fact. A cat will eat a mouse. You catch it. It's so clever. But non-science, the opposite of science, is very nice. It's very fun because it's not real. It's like reading a storybook, fairy tale, you know. So that's what happens. So back to progress of weapons. So the weapons, then AK-47. After AK-47, then came pistols. Then after pistols came the sniper guns. You know, a sniper, when you shoot, nobody even knows where it's from. Yeah, it's gone, and the person is dead. Now, not only don't you know who has shot it, like the musket, which could throw gunpowder on you, now with the sniper, you can't even hear someone has been shot. Yes. So why is that so? It's because of what I'm saying, that progress happens in all areas, even the areas we don't want progress to happen, like weapons. Because when knowledge progresses, both knowledge of, remember, that's why the Bible is a very interesting book. Like, even though I am now a person of faith, if I'm to choose a religion, I would choose Christianity, because there's some semblance of order, sense. Of course, I don't support the homophobia at all, because sex is good. Sex is not evil. And so homosexuality is very okay. But the fact is, in that Bible story, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil means that when you progress in knowledge, you will also progress in the knowledge of good and evil. So that means evil knowledge will progress, same as good knowledge will progress. So that's how the world is. When you say you are progressive, you be prepared. That's what I'm trying to say. And that is the conclusion of my meditation and thinking. Be prepared for progress in the good and progress in the bad and progress in the neutral. You know, neutral is just progress. Like when there is more water. Yeah. Because water is neutral, but it can destroy at the same time it can create. Water can clean a place, but it can kill people. People died of a tsunami. That was just water. Fire helps us to cook, but it also destroys. So that is the nature. The tree of the knowledge of good and evil is that the mystery of that tree is that man and every natural thing can do good and evil. You see, that's the world we live in. That's why there's error. Error means that when you do something that someone considers evil, it is called error. That's why it's called sin, and that's why it's also called a crime. It is called error. This is why we fight when people call homosexuality a sin, because you're calling it evil. And it's not evil, it is just that there are people who are homosexual and they love each other and they should not be attacked. It's that simple. But you see, for some people, they believe it is evil, and others believe it is good. You see? And this is why we have science. Science is to bring facts. Facts are neutral. Facts are neutral. There is no good fact and there is no bad fact. That's what you need to know. A fact is a fact. It is neutral. Uh, a man can sleep with a man. That is a neutral fact. It's not bad. It can happen. It's a fact. There's nothing about is it good or bad. The moment you say is it good or bad, you've gone to subjectivity. Now, some people in a population will say it is good, and some people in another population will say it is bad. But the fact is, it happens. So the fact is neutral, which is on top. Hmm? Neutral is on top. Then good is down and bad is on the other side. They are on the same level. Why? Some people can call it bad, some can call it good. But the fact is, it happens. So that fact is higher than the quality of what it was. You see, very simple. So the same with a gun. You can see a gun and it can never be used. A gun can stay there and never be used forever. It's just there, unused. So what are you going to tell? It's a gun. It hasn't been used. It hasn't been used. And but the moment the gun is used, then that's when you're going to discuss whether the use of that gun was good or bad. Because some people use guns, and this is now what's happening in America. There's the big war, which we haven't done a discussion on it. The issue is, what is a gun, and do we need guns? That's the question. See, that's the question. It's a very tough, and it's going to. America is in. Even Trump is sensing it. Trump is sensing there'll be trouble in America in the 2018 midterm elections for that issue. Because why? In the beginning of the year, there was a gun revolt. The young people are anti-gun. The old people are pro-gun, majority of them. So there is a discussion about, it's a silent discussion. It's not open now, but So what is going to happen? And then sadly, the gun debate has taken partisan forms. Had it been that all the parties supported gun use, it would be a different story. If Democrats support gun use and then Republicans support gun use, it would be okay. But if you have a situation whereby one party is with the gun lovers and another party is with the anti-gun people, wow, you are in for a cocktail. Very big war, because those people they are going to clash. It's a fact. They're going to clash because they don't agree. They need to sit down and agree. That's why you have Congress. Do you know why you have a House of Congress? It is to discuss and to see. But the problem is, what happens when people don't agree? Just America has states. America is a very interesting country. They had to have states so that some countries can do, like Texas is an open carry state, meaning you can walk with your gun anywhere you want. See, they keep themselves. But the problem of that law is, what about an immigrant? Is he allowed to own a gun? And can you sell a gun to an immigrant? What about a black person? Is he? And then guess what? When getting a gun, can everybody get a gun in a state that is open carry? Or you have to be rich for you to get a gun? Because if you have to be rich to get a gun, then that's dangerous. Because that means the rich have guns and the poor don't. And then you will tempt people to steal guns to fight you. That's what it's the world. Oh my goodness. I think sometimes I feel I'm in another level of thinking that is just I'm trying to sort out my thoughts. But basically this is what I'm seeing. And so that's just one progress. Progress in weapons, progress in intellect, IQ, genius. People are going to progress. They're higher. So what am I saying? Now let's go to another area. Let's leave guns. We can progress in problems. Problems, things are going to become, because systems are becoming more and more complex. Problems from those systems will become more and more complex. That is the what do you call it? The backlog of progress. Is that when you are progressive in all areas, they will be what you call backlog. There can be a backlog whereby problems also become complex. Like if it's unemployment, it can become complicated because the system of the way to get a job in that system is very hard. There are very many conditions for you to get a job. So you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do that, you have to do that. Do you know, if you had a system whereby to get a job, all you do is to be 18? Just be 18, show your identity card. Oh, good. We are signing you here. Just putting you there. You're 18. Okay, 18. Very simple. You give people jobs like that, and you're done. But when you have a system whereby there are certain very stringent conditions for you to get a job, then you will find that there will be complicated problems. One of the complicated problems could be you will try and snake your way through in there. You see, you will have connections, because also those connections are complicated. So you see, as progress goes on, it can also be what do you call it? Progressive problems. However, now let us now come back to reality. Reality is that in some areas, this is the reality, the factual reality. Some areas you can be progressive and others you can be retrogressive. That is the reality of life. And that's how you live life, whereby you can progress in good or positive things that build people, but you retrogress in things that don't build people. Now, for example, when you have life, when you progress in human rights, when you're a country and you progress in human rights, that means there'll be less violation of human rights. So what happens is crime decreases, violation of human rights decreases, and human rights acceptance increases. Now, when you're in a country whereby homosexuality was criminalized and then it is decriminalized, what happens is more people accept it and they say they tolerate it. And when more people tolerate it, the less people uh, discriminate homosexuals. There will be less discrimination. So there'll be more tolerance and less intolerance. So what is happening is when there's, for like the way they say, for every action, there is a reaction. Now, in the same with progress and retrogression, where there's progress, there is retrogression. So when there's progress in science, there is retrogression in ignorance. When there's progress in love, there is retrogression in hatred. When there's progress in when there's progress in war, there's retrogression in peace. Like if you measure, take 10 years over 50 years, and you count how many wars are in 10 years, like 1960 to 1970. How many wars happened there? You count. Then 1970 to 1980, how many wars happened there? You count. Then 1980 to 1990, how many wars happened there? You count. Then 1990 to 2000, how many wars happened? You count. Then 2000 to 2010, how many wars? You count. Then 2010 to 2020, how many wars? You count. Now, when you count the number of wars and you see that in every decade the wars were decreasing, that is retrogression, and it's a good retrogression, because when the wars are retrogressing, the peace is progress. And it's mathematical. So life is very mathematical. When we progress in life, in and there are some, in mathematics, what's so interesting, that there are some features that follow each other. They are what you call directly proportional to each other. So peace tends to be directly proportional to prosperity. You see, when there's peace, you'll build houses, you'll build buildings, you'll build roads, people will have jobs, there'll be money. That is peace. But, and so what does it mean? That's directly proportional. So peace is directly proportional to prosperity. And that is progress, because more peace, more prosperity. Now, when there's war, what happens? Things collapse, buildings, people die, and all of these things. So there is loss. So war is directly proportional to destruction, killing, and sadness, and all of these things. So what happens is when that happens to the system of the world, there are some events that are directly proportional to each other. Now, the problem we are having in the world is like nationalism. When you have very many nations, they fight each other. Do you know why nations fight each other? Because when another nation beats that nation, they have gained. You see, they have gained, but that nation has lost. You see, some nations gain territory. Look at what Crimea. It gained Crimea. Crimea lost its sovereignty. It was part of Ukraine, lost it. But of course, it was part of Russia at that time. So it's a very complicated issue we don't want to talk about. But the fact is, that's what happened. Now, So sometimes when a country like Iraq, when America went to Iraq, and Iraq was destroyed, but America was not destroyed, meaning they gained. But the reason why America went there was to fight the terrorists that attacked America. You see, 2001, they were attacked by terrorists, and it was claimed that they were from Iraq and Afghanistan. And that's why they went to do that. So, you know, the Bush doctrine, all of that, he was doing that for self defense because America was not supposed to be attacked. According to the books of America, the president is supposed to protect America. So he had to find ways to defend himself, and that's what he did. But the problem of war is when you fight another nation, that nation you're fighting will hate you also. You see, that nation you're fighting will hate you. And it's that's why Obama, when he came in, he was not a war man. He was a man to sit down and talk. If you have a problem with somebody, sit down and talk with them. Don't fight them. That's what Obama brought to the world, diplomacy. And Obama, I believe Obama influenced Trump. Have you seen even Trump is a negotiator? Yes, he was a diplomat. Because if Trump was following a warrior, believe you me, he would have bombed North Korea today. Yes, long time. He would have bombed it. If you remember the tweets, go back. History is very sweet these days. You can just go back to recent tweets. Go and read what Trump was writing the time when Kim was also writing and issuing threats. Trump was ready and you'd have done it. But because Obama's foreign policy has it infiltrated the whole White House administration, and Trump's administration is not even 5 years old. So it cannot overturn that culture of diplomacy that was already set up by Obama. He had to use that system of diplomacy to talk to Kim. And now America has to deal with Iran again because he cut off that deal, the Iran deal. And meaning that America and Iran are back to enemies. They are back to fighting each other until they have a time of sitting together, of talking to each other and saying, you know what, I think we can solve this thing this way. What is the problem? And our problem is you are going to get missiles, and you know missiles are not, as I've told you, why is it that the world doesn't want countries to have nuclear weapons? Ask yourself. It is to stop. You see, progress can be automatic. The danger of progress being automatic is that everything will progress, even evil, even what is called the worst evil. You know, it can even become progressive. So because we are human beings, we are not animals, or we are higher than animals, we are higher animals. What we have the ability to play with the levers and retrogress certain habits, but progress other. So like sciences, progress the good sciences that will keep the world happy, keep the world healthy, keep the world balanced. Those sciences, progress them. And then retrogress the ones that bring hatred, that bring, just think of, I was even asking myself, imagine building. Then why are we building? Why don't we just fight fast? Why don't we just fight fast? And then we know who is the winner. Then we go to building and we build once and for all, rather than have these systems whereby you're building beautiful skyscrapers only for them to come down. Of course, we have war on every side. You know, nature is also against progress. Yes, we live in a world that can still have earthquakes, can still have hurricanes, can still have fires because the sun can cause fire. And that's beyond our control, in the sense that we cannot control the sun. Since we can't control the sun, then we need to build systems that can keep the world better. And since we cannot stop hurricanes, because do you know how to stop a hurricane? Is to control the sun. That's how you do it. To control the sun. When you control the sun, you've controlled weather. I was talking to some people and they were saying they were shocked that NASA is going to do exploration of the sun. And I said, no, it's good, because the closer you are to the sun, the more you will study it. That's number one. Number two, you even know how to regulate its power. And if man can get a way of regulating the sun's power, that is it. The weather will be controlled. You can even, it's like a switch, you know, you can just say, oh, let's just put a bit of sun now, you know, let's have summer the whole year. And you have it the whole year. But the problem of that is going to affect other systems we have, like food. That's why climate change is a very important thing, because with climate change, everything has changed. Crop production has changed. So if you're not doing irrigation, you're done. If you didn't, if you've not done what you call it, if you've not, there's certain crops that need sunlight, and if the sunlight doesn't come at time, we are one. Never forget that. We are diverse, but we are one. The world is connected. It is the weirdest mystery of all that we are one. That's why these days I don't blame people for economic problems, because we're interconnected. When there's a problem in one economy, somehow, somewhere, it will affect another economy. And when this other economy is affected, then it will also affect, because we're interconnected, we are one. It's like one body. I was even saying one world, one church. Yes, we are one church. We are one. We are one people. We are one people. We are on one world, one earth. Different classes, different statuses, but we're in one world. Because imagine if a big asteroid hits, big enough than the earth, comes and hits us all, we all go, whether you're rich or poor. and many things that happen. So what you need to understand is that there is artificial agents of retrogression, artificial agents of progression, and then you also have natural agents of progression and natural agents of retrogression. Like natural agents of progression, the sun is both a natural agent of progression and retrogression. The wind is also a natural agent of progression and retrogression. The water, the waters in the sea are also agents of progression and retrogression. And that's what I was telling you, is the mystery of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, that matter can destroy, but can also create. Yes, matter can destroy, but also create. And just because matter can destroy and create doesn't mean it has to do both. You see, there's some matter that just destroys. Yes, there is matter that just destroys. It's just destructive. There's nothing you can do. And there's some matter, its only job is to construct. But it doesn't mean it can't. That's why we human beings, we have the ability to pull the levers. We can choose to destroy, and we can choose to create. Yes, like war. We can choose to fight, or we can choose not to fight. As I told you, Obama's is one of the best examples. He had a choice to attack Syria. He didn't. Yes. He had a choice. Everything, all the ammunition was there. Trump has a choice. He could have attacked Kim. Kim threatened America. You know what Trump would have done? Just shoot. Done. I mean, there's a law. Of course, there's a law. He can even lose the presidency, but he has done something. You see, that's the weird thing about life. That people can do anything. That's the truth. You can do anything. But for every action, there is a reaction. So anyway, those are my thoughts about progress. And what I can say, let's be a progressive. But when you are progressive, be progressive in the things that make the world better. And human rights is very important. I envision a world whereby you will live in peace, irrespective of who you are, your race, your tribe, your sexual orientation, your class. Because even classes, do you know classes can end? Yes, Karl Marx, his prophecy can come to pass, whereby all the poor get their houses. You know, they're building very many nice houses in the world. Why not just say everyone who is poor, has no money, no job, go and stay there for free? The government is going to pay. Why? Because one day, the way we are going, we're even progressing in wealth. I told you in the last video, there is no retrogression in wealth. Apple is now a trillionaire. Why is that news? That is progress. Progress is news. Is a trillionaire. And what does that mean? Other companies are going to become trillionaires. Now wait, when you hear now hit 10 trillion, then it will hit 100 trillion, then it becomes 1 quadrillion. Yes. So what does that mean? The world has money. And that means that there'll come a time when everybody will be lifted out of poverty. That's why Bill Gates says that, and he says it calmly. He knows what he's saying. He knows what he's saying. He's a mathematician. This is mathematics, actually, in the end. Even progress. I like mathematics because there's a topic called progression. Yes, it is there in the cycles, and the progressive series is there in mathematics. And in artificial systems, it is easier to be progressive than in natural systems, because today the sun can decide to be, then tomorrow the sun decides to be very hot, and it causes fires, and then causes destruction. Then tomorrow the wind decides to blow very gently. And one time the wind blows so badly it uproots trees, and then when it uproots the trees, the rain ceases to come because now there are no trees. Then the earth decides to be quiet. Then all of a sudden it decides to be earthquake, you know. And then buildings that men have built 60. Look what's happening to Italy. Do you know why Italy things are collapsing? I have an answer to that. The earthquakes that have been taking place in Italy. Italy is gone as a country. That's the warning. Because the buildings are collapsing because of an earthquake that took place last year. So what happened is, even though those buildings just collapsed last year, it shook the foundation and the structure. And so now what is happening? These buildings are collapsing because you don't even need an earthquake, just a tremor, and some of these ones will fall. So what does this mean? The next earthquake that will come to Italy is going to bring more buildings down, because the ones that are almost coming down are waiting just for a small one, just a little one, to bring them down. And that's what should. And the problem of Italy, it's not like Japan. You know, Japan, what they did when they realized they lived in an earthquake prone area, they built buildings that are earthquake proof. So even if they have them, and but if you see them, they still the roads are destroyed when earthquake happened in Japan. But they managed to build. At least they have tried building wise. They have done well. But Italy is an old country, especially Rome. It's an old city. Very few things are very few things are new. So imagine, just look at let me see if I can remember the Colosseums. Yes, I remember. Colosseums are very old in Italy. They're very old. And it's incredible. Some of them are still standing, even despite the earthquakes have happened. But do you know why they're standing? They are not that big. So it's all about science. When you have science in your head, you will have knowledge. And because you will know what to build. The Colosseums, why they can't come down, the foundation was good. If you look at how Romans used to build, and it's not high enough. High buildings tend to collapse faster than low buildings. Yes, because even physics is support you. The COG, stability. See? Even when you have a bomb in a small building, it caves in, but you can save people because there were few stones and it's small. But imagine, look at what happened in the World Trade Center when it came down. Because of the concrete and all of that, people just went like that in a minute because of the size of the building that came down. So this is what you have to understand. Progress is the key, but selective progress. Of course, there's nothing, we don't need selective justice. Justice should be justice. But when it comes to progress, it should be selective, because if you just say progress, you may be progressing things you don't want, you know? Yes. You may be progressing narcissism. Yeah. Maybe progressing murder. People, like what I say about guns. Why just stop? We've made enough guns and they're too good. Please, let's stop. Let everybody first get those ones. Meanwhile, use that knowledge of making guns, convert it to knowledge of making better buildings. Because I'm seeing the buildings is going to be a problem in the world. We need to think of earthquakes. We need to think of the sun, hurricanes. I mean, look at California. It's sad that fires are just happening and houses are coming. Anyway, insurance is making money. You can either, and I wrote a book about this discussion as I conclude. Progressives, retrogressives, cyclics, and oscillatives. That we are either one of those. You know, just like you have the four temperaments, we have the four motions, four human motions. Some humans are progressive. They just like going forward. They get better and better, better and better, better and better. Other humans are retrogressive. They go back to the past. That's going back, going back. And sometimes retrogressiveness happens, especially in old people, because the ability to progress, capacity to progress, makes you not be a progressive as an old person. You know, like when technology is getting good, now you can use Facebook. You're there. Next, now you can use Twitter. I know how to tweet. Then in 2020, someone is going to create a new app better than Facebook, but more complicated. And then you'll be scratching your head. How do you do this? Now, because you've aged, you find it hard. And I'm tired. Let me just stick to Facebook. So you become a retrogressive because the new app that has come the new app that has come is a bit complicated for you to understand. So what is the secret? Please make your mind progressive. Make it have capacity to progress. Make your mind have capacity to know new things. Don't be someone fixated to old things, in the sense that you stay in the old stuff. You know, that's my view. In short, I'm just telling you, I'm encouraging some people to be progressive. But the fact is, some people are retrogressive. They can't change. What are you going to do to them? You can't. You just have to live with them. You progress. Don't waste time trying to progress a retrogressive who can't. You know, there's doesn't want to, and there's can't. There's can't. They can't progress. So you just say, "Oh God, let me just take care of this person and put them there." Yes, that's what a president does, a king does, a leader does. You look at your people and study what type of people do I have. And when you know when you know your people are like this, then you know how to deal with them. Otherwise, if you don't know your people, you are doomed as a leader. Even in a family, you need to know who is, even in friendship, you need to know your friend. What type of person is he? And then see if you can live with that person. Now, I was talking of my book. So there's a progressive and the retrogressive. Then there's the oscillatives. These are people who swing like this. They swing. One time they're progressive, whoosh. Then tomorrow retrogressive, whoosh. Then tomorrow progressive, whoosh. Then tomorrow retrogressive. Whoosh. They go back and forth. They go back and forth. They go back and forth, back and forth. And then the last group of people I wrote about were the cyclics. These are people who like going in cycles. You see, like, and that's very common in January, from January to December, you're always working. You're always working. December, you go for holiday because it's now Christmas. Then the next year comes, working. You repeat everything you did. And weirdly enough, sometimes they even repeat everything they did in January. All their Januaries look the same. And the cyclic system is mostly natural, because in nature, winter in the northern hemisphere is always in December and January. It is never, there is no day nature has decided to have winter in the northern hemisphere in June. Never. Never. The day winter is snowing in London in June, the world will cease. It will cease. And meanwhile, that it's snowing in South Africa in January, it's the end. It's the end of the world. It's been turned upside down. Why? Because nature is cyclic. You can even predict. You know, the best prophets are those who predict cyclically and tell you it's gonna snow in December in Britain. It's like, duh, it's going to do so. So, if you're a prophet, you go to people who don't know Britain and you tell them it's going to snow in Britain. And the people who don't know, they will believe that. But now that is a cyclic system. But you'd rather be a predictor in an oscillative system where you don't know. Oscillation, you don't know. It's really unclear what this thing is. Because when you play with a pendulum, you don't know which side it's going to stop. Is it going to stop here or there? Now, a good predictor will tell you to stop there, and it does. Yes, that one predicted well. Yeah. Anyway, guys, that's my talk. I was thinking about progression, and I liked the thought. I'm still going to think about it. So let's be progressive, but in a selective way. And which way? Human rights, science, development, and peace. Because where there's peace, we prosper. When there's no war and no hatred, we do not prosper. Thank you so much.